turkey leftovers and watching the Caps, and we got the Terps playing. But all eyes on the Ravens now, still a part of first place in the AFC North and taking on a pretty feisty opponent here this week. The Miami Dolphins, 6 wins in a row. This guy hasn't seen a whole lot of that in South Florida, maybe not since the days when he played, slinging it around out there with Dan Marino and Shula back in the day and coming up to 33rd Street and knocking the Colts in the teeth back in the day. He is the longtime play-by-play voice of the Miami Dolphins and a pretty good receiver in his own right. We welcome Jimmy Cefalo back to WNST. Jimmy, how are things in Miami? Tell me sunny and 82, right?
Yeah, you got that right. It's actually right now sunny and 79. You're not far off.
You know, you Pennsylvania guys, I mean, of all the guys, my favorite guys in life are the ones that just get the hell out of here when they're 20 and go down somewhere where it's sunny and never look back. That's you, right?
Look, I'm telling you, Nestor, it's not Scranton, Pennsylvania, but it's a pretty darn good place.
I would tell you. Hey, you've watched a lot of bad football there. You've struggled. I got a lot of friends down in the South Florida area who are Fins fans and who listen to your broadcast. Friends I've known for 15, 20 years, and they're very mopey about the Dolphins, even all the times the Ravens have come down there and played amidst beautiful conditions and empty stadiums. This is about as good as it gets. Boy, things have turned around very, very quickly in the middle of the season, and maybe for a lot of folks sort of unexpectedly, right?
Yeah, well, they won. Yes, unexpectedly is the right way to say it. They won their 6th in a row on Sunday. They've been a transformed football team. I think Adam Gase, the new head coach, has changed the culture of this team. It's a tough football team now when it's been a finesse club over the past 8 or 10 years. And that's why I think in the past they lost to people like Buffalo or the Ravens, tough football teams. And now they go toe-to-toe, and they're willing to slug it out and do it with some tough people. So it's a different type of a football team that it's been since I've been back as a play-by-play guy.
Well, and from Tannehill, I mean, I guess it all started there. That's when the investment is made. But more than that, all those guys that invested in Tannehill are now gone, right? And for him to be stepping into this and having a running game, having some protection, a lot of the things that, quite frankly, he didn't have under the previous administration.
They did not. Although Mike Tannenbaum is the guy who actually, was running the ship and gave him the big contract. And Mike is still here and doing a good job of bringing in personnel. Look, Ryan is somebody who's got all the tools. A very strong arm. He's very smart, very mobile, and he did not have a running game before. He did not have a strong offensive line. And so that's been the biggest changes. His wide receivers are awfully good. Devontae Parker and he has been, just a revelation in his second year, coming on strong. He was banged up on Sunday. But I think this is a different football team. Jarvis Landry has been a very good receiver for him as well. But again, it starts up front with the 5 offensive linemen, 3 of which missed Sunday's game. Their win against the 49ers. So that's a big concern. Are they going to be healthy?
Laramie Tunsil was the guy the Ravens looked at, and obviously with all the things that went on with the draft, with the gas mask and the weed and all that stuff, how has that worked out? I mean, you see guys like Randy Moss fall on draft day or Warren Sapp, guys that you sort of knew were special guys, and then 10, 12, 15 years into their career, you see that they were special, but they also had some red flags, and certainly with Tunsil, there was a giant red flag about him. 12 weeks into the season, how's that gone for them?
Well, remember, Tunsil was a different deal. He's playing extraordinarily well, by the way. He was one of the injured players. He is expected to play this Sunday against the Ravens, but he's played very, very well. In fact, one of the highest-rated guards in football. And remember, this was the left tackle who moved over the guard to play here in Miami, and will probably eventually go back to left tackle. In fact, he's filled in for Brandon Albert, who also missed Sunday's game, an all-pro left tackle. So Tunsil has played really well. And as far as the red flags are concerned, don't forget, this is a guy who never failed a drug test in college. That video popped up a couple years after it was taken, and the Dolphins thought they could gamble on him because every coach they talked to at Mississippi said, this is a good young guy. He made this mistake, but he's never given us any trouble at all. So for that reason, they decided they'd be able to go after him. In fact, the Dolphins had made a trade for the Eagles for Kiko Alonso and Byron Maxwell. They're starting cornerback and they're starting middle linebacker to drop from number 8 in the first round to 13, Well, that actually saved the money because they would have taken Tunsil at 8, but he was still there at 13, so they got who they wanted anyway.
Talk about the movement on that offensive line with Pouncey and others. Bushrod's another guy who's got a lot of local ties here with Towson and playing down in New Orleans, mainly at the right tackle position. Some thoughts about how he's going on the O-line, because I know we got a lot of people out there that followed his career.
Well, he's played really well. Bushrod is, as you know, a tough guy. But remember, he's also moved to guard from right tackle. And at the guard spot, the difference is you're playing against very larger people at nose tackle or a defensive tackle than you are at defensive end. And they're on you very quickly. It's not like being a right tackle and dropping back and waiting for a defensive end to come to you. They're getting their hands on you right away. He's adapted to that very well. Part of the reasons why they've played very well as an offensive line. Pouncey is the third member of that offensive front that did not play last Sunday, and that's another concern for them. Will he be healthy enough, an all-pro center, to go?
Jimmy Cefalo, longtime voice of the Miami Dolphins. I remember him coming up here with a fish hat on and beating up my Colts 30 years ago in Penn State and all that stuff. And has been a longtime broadcaster down there in the sunshine. You know, they haven't run the football well in recent years. When Ajayi came out, 6-7 weeks ago and starts running for 150 yards, people were trying to figure out how to pronounce his last name. I don't think that's a problem anymore. I know they struggled a little bit against San Francisco and certainly with the moving parts on the offensive line, but they want to come in and run the football on Sunday, right?
Oh, without question. It's a large part of their game. Ajayi has rushed for around 850 yards. He missed the opening game, but he's still been able to run the ball extraordinarily well. One of, 4 players in NFL history to run for back-to-back 200-yard games.
Crazy.
And one of those games was against the Steelers. I mean, this is an offensive line that is among the best in football. And Ajayi is big, he's tough, and he's got a lot of speed. He went into Sunday's game averaging 5.6 yards a carry, one of the highest percentages in football.
Well, I'll tell you what, the last drive, the 49ers came rushing back. They look like a different team with Kaepernick, right? I mean, for all the hubbub about the kneeling and the voting and obviously all the mess that went on last week with Castro down in your part of the world, they almost pulled that game out in the end. I mean, the Dolphins were kind of lucky to put a stand up and certainly making that last play, Sue being a big part of that as well.
Well, they were up by 17 in the fourth quarter, and the Niners found a way to come back. But the poignant part about Kaepernick on the last play of the football game, he's going in to tie the game. He's at the 2-yard line. There are 2 seconds on the clock. And Sue grabbed him from behind, but the guy who stopped him from getting to the end zone was Kiko Alonso. Now, I've never heard booing as loud at Hard Rock Stadium as I did when Kaepernick was first coming onto the field. The reason for that was not just the kneeling of the national anthem, was his comments about Fidel Castro. And the man who makes the tackle is the son of a Cuban immigrant. And it was the most poignant moment for the people in those stands. And one of the reasons why that victory will be long remembered by the people of South Florida.
Well, and certainly defensively, last year all the money spent on Sue, and then Alonso, who's been passed around like a hot potato, but clearly was a well-thought-of football player from Buffalo to Philadelphia and beyond, has sort of awakened there, right? I mean, and I guess the real story with him is he's healthy, right?
Oh, he is healthy, and a couple of weeks ago he won the football game for the Dolphins by picking off Phillip Rivers in the final couple of minutes and a 60-yard pick six that won the game for the Dolphins and part of their 6-game winning streak. So Alonso has played really well. On Sunday, he had an interception, a fumble recovery, and he led the team with 12 tackles.
Can't do much more than that now, can you?
Well, I don't know, but I tell you what, he's a rangy guy who can do a lot of good things, and I think Alonso has made that trade. Byron Maxwell has played a lot better. And when you add that together, the Dolphins gave up very little to get quite a bit.
Were you a guy in the corner when they gave all the money to Sue that, yeah, he's a good football player, but what is it going to do to the cap, and can he play to that number? I don't know that any one player, especially at that position, can play to that number, but I think it certainly wakes things up around the defense, whether it's Wake, whether it's Alonso, whoever it is, getting more space to run around because you can't single-team Sue. You have to double him, if not triple him, and account for him on every single play, especially if you're trying to run the football.
Right. Well, and when you look at what they've done, not just with Sue, but with Cameron Wake, the combination of Wake and Sue together may be the best tandem tackle defensive end in football.
Jimmy
At least right now, the way they've been playing the last 4 or 5 weeks.
Jimmy Cephalo calls all things Dolphins out on the web as well as at the Dolphins official. By the way, the new stadium there, it's had a lot of names, right? I call it Joe Robbie still, but at Hard Rock, it looks like they've done some things down there. I'm looking forward to getting down there and seeing a game sometime soon.
They spent $500 million redoing that stadium. You wouldn't recognize it when you walked into it. It's a gorgeous place, and it'll be hosting a Super Bowl in a few years, so we're pretty excited about that here in South Florida as well. And all the money was put up by the owner, Stephen Ross. He put all $500 million up to do it.
Well, I tell you, it's a little bit different than the baseball stadium down there, which is not a joy to see. So I'll be down at Hard Rock visiting. Hey, we'll see you on Sunday. Don't eat tourist crab cakes when you come in here, Jimmy. Bring me some of those stone crabs up here. I need some of those.
You got it going. All right, thanks very much.
A little bit of the mustard, too. There he goes, Jimmy Cephalo. You can follow him out on Twitter at Jimmy Cephalo, Cefalo. Longtime voice of sports down in South Florida, as well as the Dolphins play-by-play voice at WIOD.com. You can find me out in the Bayou Toyota Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We do come in crystal clear even in South Florida. It's all brought to you by BuyAToyota.com. Morning newspaper ships to your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning. That is powered up by our friends at Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com. Still $10 a month. You can work off your eggnog and your turkey and your pumpkin pie. I'm sure on January 1st when you're making the resolutions, you'll be thinking of Planet Fitness. You can learn more at planetoftriumphs.com as well. A lot of inspiration out there as well for a lot of folks that have gotten themselves into shape via Planet Fitness. Nasty at WNST.net reaches me. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram. Streaming live on Facebook Live as well as on our YouTube WNSTV channel. I am a very available individual. Any breaking news happens first on the WNST Tech Service. That is brought to you by our friends at Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. Dennis Colossus will be here on Thursday driving you home, getting you ready for Thursday night football. Pretty good game there, as well as the Ravens and the Finns on Sunday here in Baltimore, where the weather conditions are supposed to be a little chilly this week. I'm going to put an extra layer on so I don't freeze my tail off like I did last week. Wednesday night, we're going to be at Christopher Daniel for the first time in a long time, doing some live radio with Zach Orr, the Ravens' leading tackler this year and linebacker, as well as Anthony Levine, who's making a bid to be a Pro Bowler. We're going to have some fun with him because he's a fun guy. That'll happen on Wednesday night at Christopher Daniel in Timonium, Padonia Road. And on Thursday night, we move the party up to Carroll County. Dennis Pitta will be joining us to swab for the Bone Marrow Registry for There Goes My Hero in both locations. We'll be at Greenmount Station, our home away from home, up in Carroll County, eating crab cakes that are fried, probably drinking eggnog as well, and visiting all the Christmas lights that we see on our way up to Hampstead from Glendon and Reisterstown and Owings Mills and all parts north. Pitta on Thursday at Greenmount Station, Zach Orr and Anthony Levine Wednesday night at Christopher Daniel. We're back in the cockpit doing some live radio all week long and swabbing for There Goes My Hero to save some lives. I'm Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.